So welcome to the show. My name is Jim Schultz. I will be your tour guide. Welcome to the Weekly Shred. You guys made it. It is a Thursday afternoon. I hope you guys are doing pretty well out there. I've got a great topic ready to go for you guys today. Strong Mom, I see you there in the chat box. Strong Mom is fired up about today's topic too. Says such a great topic. I totally agree there, Denise. Totally agree with you. So good that I thought, hey, let's go and do this thing on the shred. So we're going to get into it here in a second, but hey, if you guys want to help out F Cubed, you want to help me out here with what we're trying to do on the old YouTube, if you hit me with a like, if you hit me with a share, if you're brand new, you subscribe, all of those things would help out a lot. They would help out the cause tremendously, so I would greatly appreciate that. So how do you stick to your diet, right? I mean, this is really the key, right? Like, this is really what it's all about. I mean, anybody can start a diet. Right? Like when motivation is high, like when you're super inspired and it's day one, and you're like, man, this time's going to be different. Like this time I'm going to do it, right? Everybody can do that, and everybody pretty much does do that. But what do we do on day 17? What do we do on day 38? What do we do on day 72 when it's like, wow, man, like this thing again? Like this again? Like, how do I actually stick to my guns and kind of keep things moving along? That's what we're going to talk about here today, and I would love to know from y'all in the chat box. So questions, comments, it's all welcome. It's all encouraged here for the next, 20, 25 minutes, man. Let's have an open discussion. I would love to know what you guys think, for those of you that are able to check us out here live on Thursday afternoon. So how do you do this? Well, I think, I've got a few strategies for you guys. Like, I've got a few tactical maneuvers that I think we can make that I think are going to really help you guys out. At least they've helped me out tremendously. But I have to say at the outset, I think we would be remiss if we didn't take a second and just channel our inner Jocko Willings to the tune of, how do you get up at 4:30 a.m.? Not that I know anything about that, because I don't, but this is Jocko Willing talking. How do you get up at 4:30 a.m.? You get up at 4:30 a.m. How do you get up at 5 a.m.? You get up at 5 a.m. Like, you just do it. So how do you stick to your diet? You stick to your diet, right? Like, how do you keep going forward? You keep going forward. And so I think that we need to be honest about this at some level. Now, again, I'm not just going to leave you guys hanging because A, I have a few strategies that have worked, but also B, I need that YouTube watch time, man. Like, we can't just let you guys off the hook in 2 minutes. Like, that's not enough. I need those minutes to push this thing out into the algorithm. But at some level, you got to do it, right? At some level, you got to take the personal accountability. You've got to take the personal agency, and you've just got to execute. You've just got to get it done. So let's make sure that we're really fair about this at the beginning of today's weekly shred. But still, I think there are a few things that I got 3 things ready for you guys today. We're going to do this in a pyramid scheme style. We're going to build up from the bottom. Got a little base foundational action that we're going to start with, and then we're going to move up to maybe what is the least important of the 3, but I think all 3 are sort of important, so it's kind of like the least of the most, if that makes any sense whatsoever. But when it comes to sticking to our diets, how can we kind of position ourselves for success? How can we actually do something differently that will lead to different results, right? Because I think it was Albert Einstein who said, and you guys have heard this quote, it's posted on Instagram at least 12,000 times a day, right? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting different results. I do it myself. I fall victim to that myself all the time, but it is true. So if you're in a situation where you're like, yeah, man, like I've really been trying to lose these 20, 30, 40, 50 pounds for a while now, and I just can't get going. I just can't keep it going. Maybe I can get going, but I can't keep it going. Well, a few things that I'm going to suggest today, or the few things that I'm going to suggest today, these might help you. My hope is they will help you. My hope is that something will trigger something, right? Got a lot of somethings in there, but something will happen, right? Something will trigger a switch, a light bulb, a button, whatever it is inside of you that will allow you to, get a little bit closer to Shredsville. So, all right. So here's what we're going to do. For number one, this is the number one reason. This is the most important thing that you have to do. This is mission critical. This is priority number one. You guys ready? You have to like your diet. You have to enjoy what it is you're doing. You have to actually look forward to your meals to some degree. If you don't like what you're doing, it's not going to work. Spoiler alert, if it's not enjoyable, for as enjoyable as the caloric deficit can be, right? Like we have to kind of temper our expectations a little bit, of course. But if it's not enjoyable to some degree, you're going to fall flat on your face. It's only a matter of time. It may be day 3, it may be day 9, maybe day 15, right? Whatever, maybe day 35. Whatever it is, it's going to happen, and it's probably going to happen fairly quickly. It's probably going to happen fairly soon, right? The diet is likely to claim you as a casualty in the fairly near future. If you don't like it, it's not going to work, right? Now, let's extend that a little bit more. It's been very clearly shown in the evidence, in the research. Forget what the media tries to tell you. Forget what Instagram tries to tell you. Forget all this stuff, right? Listen to what me, rando YouTuber, has to tell you. Keto, intermittent fasting, macros, paleo, carnivore, all that stuff. It doesn't matter. It's all the same. It doesn't make a difference, right? They all work. They all work if you do them. They all work if you are consistent. They all work if you actually follow the protocols. They're all potentially good ideas. Well, probably not the carnivore diet, but the rest of them are potentially good ideas, right? So if you actually execute the plan, then they're all fine. None is better than the other, right? People want to hold keto up as this magic, solution. It's not, right? People want to hold intermittent fasting up as this magic solution. It's not. Not from a physique development standpoint, not from a fat loss standpoint. Now, could fasting specifically have other health benefits? Possibly, but that's not my objective here. My objective is to get you to Shredsville, right? My objective here is to get you to your leanest and your lightest, right? My objective here is to transform your physique. If you don't like what you're doing, it's not going to work, right? Like if you absolutely love, just to use a really simple example, if you absolutely love turkey sandwiches, right? You're just like, man, I just love my turkey sandwiches, man. I get that honey glazed turkey. I get that rye bread or whatever it is. I get the little mustard. I get a little mayo. I get some provolone cheese, whatever. You can see I don't eat turkey sandwiches because I'm just mixing up a bunch of rigmarole together. But maybe that's you. Maybe that's your jam, right? Does it really make a lot of sense for you to do keto? Does it really make a lot of sense for you to just, forego that bread and just leave something that you really thoroughly enjoy that is arguably a pretty healthy option? Just leave it on the shelf like that? Like that doesn't make any sense, right? Intermittent fasting. Maybe you get hungry a lot, right? Maybe you are just one of those people that you are just hungry on a pretty regular basis. I know these people. I know many of these people. I'm not really one of those persons, one of those people. I probably have a normal appetite. I get hungry on a pretty regular basis, but I don't have like a ferocious appetite like some people do. But maybe you do. Do you really think that intermittent fasting is a good idea? Like, do you really think that that's going to jive with your kind of natural, biological, needs? kind of the way that, God has wired you, like, I don't think so. I don't think that's going to make a lot of sense. But I think that some people feel like it's like a badge of honor. It's almost like, if I punish myself a little bit more, it's going to be sweeter in the end. If I punish myself a little bit more, it's going to be that much better when I actually reach my goal. And let me tell you something, from someone who has done it a time or two in my life, right? Grew up as a really, really big overweight kid, for those of you that might not know my story, and I've competed as a natural bodybuilder for nearly 20 years now. And I was lucky enough to win a novice title in 2017, and I almost turned pro, and that will be my job for the next time I take the stage. But I can tell you right now, it's not going to feel any sweeter. I can tell you right now, you're not going to feel any better for having made it more difficult. And I can speak to this with firsthand knowledge, right? Caloric deficits, dieting, it's already hard enough. It's already challenging enough. This is why most people fail. So why would you try to make it more challenging on yourself? You're not being more hardcore. You're not being better than somebody else. I think you're kind of being foolish. And I think you're kind of being silly. There's no bonus points. There's no gold stars for doing it in a way that was more brutal, for doing it in a way that was more difficult than somebody else. In fact, given all the things that we know now, like the things I talk about on the shred and the things that you can find elsewhere on the old interwebs, man, we're too smart now. We're too smart. We should be better than this. And so you have to enjoy this. You have to enjoy what it is you are doing. And I'll tell you another thing too, man, just from personal experience, having prepared for many competitions in my day, it's going to get really hard. Like, let's say you have 50 pounds to lose. We'll use that as our example for the rest of the shred today. You have 50 pounds to lose. It's going to get really, really difficult. It's going to get really, really hard. The beginning should be pretty easy. The beginning should be pretty easy indeed. But when you get towards the end, those last 10, 12, 8 pounds, they're going to be really, really hard. And so if you can look forward to what it is you're doing, if you can actually look forward to the menu that you have planned for yourself, where you're like, man, I actually enjoy the foods that I have coming. I enjoy my lunch. I enjoy my dinner. 80-85% of what I eat I actually enjoy. I can tell you from firsthand experience, that is going to go a very, very long way for you, sir or madam. That is going to make a huge difference for you. When you are near the end, you don't have a lot of food coming in. So it really, really helps if you enjoy that food. Right now, of course, we can't eat donuts, we can't eat cookies, we can't do all that kind of stuff, right? So, can you make your chicken really tasty? Of course. Can you make your turkey sandwiches really tasty? Of course. And you can do all of these things, right? You don't have to punish yourself. You don't have to make it really difficult on yourself. When I was in college, I want to know what you guys think. Those of you that are watching live, let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you have fallen victim to, kind of punishing yourself with your diets before. I would love to know if I'm not alone here on the shred this week. But when I was in college, so I was convinced that if you were serious about, and I've kind of talked about this before, but I was convinced that if you were actually serious about what you were doing with your diet, with your physique transformation, you had to punish yourself. Like, it should be really difficult. And the more difficult that it was, the more hardcore that you were. And the more effective the diet would be. Like, this is how ridiculous my thought process was back when I was like 20, 21, 22, 23. As most 20-year-old males, kind of think through things. Well, so for my first handful of bodybuilding shows, this is what I did. Like, everything was really, really difficult. Everything was really, really challenging. And if it wasn't challenging, I used to kind of, give myself a talking to. I used to be like, dude, what are you doing, man? Like, do you really want this or do you not want this? Like, let's think through this. Like, how bad do you want this? So one of the things that I used to eat all the time, every day, several times a day, for years on end, was tuna fish and applesauce. I used to buy I wouldn't even buy the good stuff because I was a college kid. I didn't have any money, right? So I had to buy chunk light tuna, which is basically like cat throw up in a can. Chunk light tuna, and then I would mix it with unsweetened applesauce just to help it go down a little bit more easily, because trying to, just fork chunk light tuna out of the can, like, everybody's got their limits, and that's where my limits were and still are to this day, by the way. But I used to mix it with unsweetened applesauce, and I remember I would be sitting there and I would just be like, wow, man, I gotta hit this TNA again, man. Like, I don't think I can do it. Like, I can't do it. But I gotta do it. I gotta do it because if I don't do it, then I don't want it badly enough. And that was the game that I played with myself all the time. Every single day. right? I was like, it's TNA or bust. Like, it is TNA or bust. That was the only way that I would look at it. And I was like, this is how we got to do it. Now, thankfully, that was, 17 years ago, 18, 19 years ago. I've grown up. I've matured a little bit in my thought process, and I haven't had TNA. It's been years. I mean, I've been married for 11 years. And so, so we've been able to graduate beyond those stages. But that's how it started for me, right? And there's, Jimmy James popping in. What's going on, man? He says, that sounds horrible. Oh, it's bad. It's really bad. Like, you probably think it's bad. It's 3 times worse than you think it is. Trust me. And I ate it multiple times a day, every single day. And my roommate, Anthony, can attest to that. So the first thing is you have to like what it is you're doing. If you don't like it, it's not going to work. Trust me. Take my word for it. I can tell you with 100% certainty that you are going to fail. That is the base level. That is the first thing that needs to be in place if you want to stick to your diet. Number 2, you need to be micro-focused. Now, what do I mean by micro-focused? Okay, let's continue with our example of your having... Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Let's continue with your example of your wanting to lose 50 pounds, let's say. You want to lose 50 pounds. That's outstanding. You want to lose 50 pounds? That's terrific. You should write it down. You should post it somewhere. You should tell some people about it. You should do all that kind of stuff. You need to do that. Once you do that, once you make up your mind what your objective is, you should immediately forget about said objective because it doesn't even matter anymore. The only thing that matters is the next meal. The only thing that matters is the next training session. The only thing that should be in your line of sight is today's macros, today's performance in the gym. That's it. Forget about 50 pounds. Forget about this month. Forget about this week. You need to become very micro-focused. Forget about the forest. Focus on the one singular tree that is standing right in front of you. I think too many people, they get lost in the weeds, they get lost in the forest, and they're just like, oh man, I got 50 pounds to lose. There is so much work to be done. Like, yeah, you can bet your bottom biscuit there's a lot of work to be done. And you know what's going to happen? If you keep thinking about it and you keep dwelling on it and you stay discouraged and overwhelmed and frustrated, none of that work's getting done. So what you need to focus on is just the next meal. Just focus on lunch, man. Like right now, it's 4:20 here on the East Coast. Just focus on dinner. What are you going to do at dinner to move you closer to your goal? It doesn't mean you have to go all out. It doesn't mean you have to be hardcore, right? Again, see step 1, right? What are you having at dinner that A, you enjoy, and B, will move you closer to your end objective? That's what you need to be focused on. How was your training today? Have you already hit the gym today? All right, terrific. Are you going tonight? Well, get it done. Get in there and get it done. Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about next week. Don't worry about any of that riffraff. All you need to worry about is what is right in front of you. And then what starts to happen? You start to stack up these small wins, right? You start to say, wow, yeah, I can do a good job at lunch. I can't lose 50 pounds today. No one's ever done it in the history of life. So forget about it. It doesn't even matter. But you can dominate lunch. You can dominate your training session today, right? Like you can do what needs to be done. You can execute at the dinner table tonight. You can do that. That is not too lofty of a goal. That is not too much to ask of you. You know you can do it because you know what? I bet you did it yesterday. I bet you did it earlier today. And then all of a sudden, you know what happens? You start stacking up these small wins. And then, based on the progress principle, which is something I talk about inside of Full Throttle Fat Loss, which of course you can find linked to down in the description to help to really support what we're trying to do here in F Cubed. But the progress principle, this is a tactic they use in the Navy SEALs. This is a tactic they use all over the place. You break things down into manageable chunks, and it just makes sense. You've heard this before. You break things down into manageable chunks, and then all of a sudden what happens? You start to defeat, you start to overcome and accomplish those chunks, and then you look back and you're like, wow, I've already done X. I've already done Y. So now what happens is not only have you moved further down the road, but you're building up confidence, right? You're building up self-reliance. All of a sudden you're like, wow, I can do this. I can do this. 2 weeks ago I had 50 pounds to lose. Now I only have 47 to lose. You know what? I got a long way to go, but I'm going to focus on this next meal. I'm going to focus on this training session today because that's what's ultimately going to get me closer to my end objective. I'm not going to spend any time focused on the overall goal. It'll take care of itself, right? If you keep executing in the moment, if you remain, micro-focused, as I like to say, then you are absolutely going to hit your end objective. You won't be able to help but get there. You're going to run smack dab right into it, right? You won't even be able to avoid it. So you have to make sure that you like it. That's step one. You have to stay micro-focused. That's step two. So what is step three? Step three, and this might be the most important one. I'm not sure. I'm obviously a little biased. I say that about each one. I guess I would say that the foundational one is probably the most important. But this next one, I think this is the one that a lot of people forget. And I think this is the one that a lot of people, this is what trips them up. This is what absolutely trips them up. And I wanted to do something different today, right? Like, I'm not giving you guys, the standard stuff that you would hear when it comes to sticking to your diet, right? Like, you don't typically hear people talking about you have to like it. You don't typically hear people talking about being micro-focused, right? Like, I want to give you guys stuff that actually works here on the shred. Like, I want to give you guys stuff that is actually effective, not just talking points and not just, regurgitating the same rigmarole that you're going to hear everywhere else. I want to give you guys the strategies and the tactics that I know will be effective for you. You like it, you're micro-focused, and here you go, the coup de grace. You will mess up. This is a fact. This is going to happen. This is, with 100% certainty, going to be your reality. There is going to be a time, there are going to be times when you mess up. And you know why that is the case? Because if you haven't noticed, you're not a robot. You're not a machine, right? With express apologies paid to the 3 Days Grace song, I Am Machine, you are not a machine. You are not a robot. You are a human. You have emotions. You make mistakes. You do some really goofy things at times. You make some really boneheaded decisions at times. And sometimes you stack up those boneheaded decisions and they turn into hours and days and weeks. It happens. It happens because we're human. It happens because we are not automated processes that don't have a brain, right? Like, we're constantly thinking through, the pros and the cons and the hopes and the fears and just all this stuff, right? So what's going to happen? You're not going wire to wire and hitting 100% of your meals and 100% of your training sessions. You are going to miss a training session. You are going to sleep in and not go to the gym. You are going to stay home when you should be training. And you know what? That's okay. You know why? Because you're human. You are going to, sneak 4 Oreo cookies in when you probably shouldn't have any Oreo cookies that day because you don't have the macros for it. It's going to happen. You are going to crush a sleeve of Oreos on a day when you probably shouldn't have more than 1 or 2 Oreos because your macros don't really allow for a sleeve of Oreos. It's going to happen. You are going to have moments where you crush the entire bag of Oreos and you superset that with a couple bowls of Honey Bunches of Oats, and then you find yourself in the drive-thru at Wendy's. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. And you know what? We are all human. So you are going to mess up. You're going to make mistakes. Now, if you are really serious and you are really dedicated, and this is really important to you, there's a good chance that over time, those things will happen less frequently. Those things will happen more infrequently. That won't be something that trips you up on a regular basis, right? Sometimes it will be something that trips you up on a regular basis. But as you start to build up some momentum, as you start to gain some confidence, as you start to get closer to your end goal, right? There's a really good chance that you are going to be really fired up. And you're going to be like, man, I don't want to give this up. I don't want to regress too badly. And here's what really claims so many people as victims on the road to Shredsville. They feel like they can't mess up. They feel like, raise your hand, in the silence, the privacy of your own house, of your own room, which now, if you're in Pennsylvania, I hope you have a mask on. Raise your hand if this describes something you've said to yourself or something you have felt before. Well, I've already messed up. I've already had X. Let me just blow the hinges off the doors. Right? I mean, I've done it many, many times. So I have a sneaking suspicion that you've probably done it too, right? And so it's like, all right, man, like we've all done that. We've all done that. And I think that it's because we all kind of hide behind this perfectionism mindset. We all kind of pretend to be, closet perfectionists. And some of us are perfectionists. And so it's kind of like, well, if it can't be perfect, then it's not worth doing at all. So what do? We just blow it out and we try to start fresh tomorrow. We blow it out and we try to start fresh on Monday. When the reality is, it would be a lot more effective to just say, hey, man, I messed up. Like, I don't know what happened this last hour, but somehow I ended up, face down in a pile of onion rings at an Asian buffet. So I have no idea how this happened, but here's where I am. Regroup. Give yourself a little bit of grace, right? Recognize God's grace that he's already given to you and say, wow, man, you know what? It's going to be okay. I can recover from this. No matter what happens, here's the interesting thing, and I'll kind of end on this note. No matter what happens, no matter how badly you mess up, and I don't care how badly you've messed up, and I've messed up really badly. I've got some cheat day stories for y'all. Woo, you would not believe it. You can recover. You can absolutely recover. Now, it might take you a little while. It depends on the severity, of the secret stash of Oreos that you have that nobody knows about. But you can recover. You can absolutely come back from that. And so expect to mess up. Don't plan for it, right? Don't just use it as a cop-out, but you're going to mess up. And you know what? It's okay. We're all human, right? Even when I'm in competition prep, when I would consider myself to be really locked in, I would consider myself to be really, really disciplined, I mess up. Sometimes I mess up in a big way, and it sets me back. But you know what? It's always something that I can recover from. It's always something that I can come back from. And so you just have to have that mindset of, all right, hey, today I'm going to give it everything I've got. And most days, that's going to move you closer to your end goal. But some days, you are going to have to take a step or two back. And that's okay. If you get back on the saddle, it's going to be okay. The worst thing you could do is quit. The worst thing you could do is give the satisfaction of claiming another casualty on the road to Shredsville. Whatever that is, the Ghost, the Grim Reaper, I have no idea. But whatever it is, right, don't give it the satisfaction. Pony up again tomorrow, regroup, enjoy those last couple bites of, Thin Mints, and then regroup and get after it tomorrow, man. And you're gonna be okay. And then, yeah, so James says, I cannot confirm or deny that. Yeah, man, I hear you, man. Because once it's out there on the internet, it lives forever. So I think that's a pretty good strategy, actually. So that's it, man. That's all I've got for you guys on the weekly shred this week. If you guys were able to tune in live, I appreciate you guys so much. I know I'm still kind of changing into this new time slot, so, people are kind of getting adjusted. We used to do things on Thursday nights, but I think this time slot's going to be better because in the near future, we're going to do some things in the garage gym that I have. It's going to be fun. We're going to have some fun and actually do some activities together, and I think it's going to be good. So, yeah, if you guys want to help support F Cubed, if you want to like this video, you want to share this video, you want to subscribe to the channel if you're brand new, that would be amazing. All those things would help out a ton. If you want to bounce on down to the description and check out livefcube.com, there's more content, there's more videos, there's all kinds of stuff. I've got free downloads, both at livefcube.com and linked to down in the show notes. And again, I've got Full Throttle Fat Loss, which is my full fat loss course where you will have direct access to me and we will help get you to Shredsville. I will make sure you get to Shredsville. I will do everything I possibly can to get you to Shredsville. If you follow the protocols, I am highly confident that you will get exactly where you're trying to go. So give that guy a look too. That would be terrific. But I really hope you guys have a great Thursday. Enjoy your weekend, and we will be back next Thursday for another shred. So we will see you then.